Omagyanatimirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshonmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vande Shri Guru Gaurango Radha Govinda Sundaro Saguna Giyate Chata Gita Gudart Gauravam. So we are continuing with our reading and study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute. Welcome to everyone who's joined this week. And we've come to a very special section of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, what are known as the Chatur Shloki, or principal 4 verses, 4 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, which are in chapter 10, verses 8 to 11. So, and by, 4 principal verses, I mean, they're expressing the essence and most important teachings, you could say, of this Bhagavad Gita. And essentially, they are describing Krishna as all in all, as everything, and surrender unto him as the highest movement that one could make. So, Jaidev, are you free? Are you available to? I love hearing your Sanskrit, if you're available. Maybe he's working.
I don't think my connection's very good.
Okay, you're out and about. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to get ready for work, so I'm tuning in. I might in a little bit be able to sit near the. Thank you, though. I'd love to help, but yeah, I got to get ready.
Okay, no problem.
Dandavat.
Okay, so I'm gonna Dandavat. So we can chant these verses then 8 to 11 together. Aham sarvasva bhavavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. Makchitta madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam Atayantascha mam nityam dusyanti cha ramanti cha tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te tesham evanu kampartam aham agyanajam tamaha nashayamyatma bhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. So we'll go back to verse 8. So it's very rich, very rich. There's so much in these verses. And as you all can see, right, this edition of Bhagavad Gita, it's quite concise, and it's not giving the ABCs, right? This Bhagavad Gita is assuming that you already have a solid foundational understanding, right, of what Krishna consciousness is. So the ABCs aren't explained here, and there are only purports on some very key and special, particular points. And so when there's a purport, then you really want to sit up and pay attention. And there's something important that's going to be discussed here. And this is why, it's probably helpful for persons, especially if they're new into this, to also read Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada's Gita, because he is, patiently giving, beginners explanations in that Gita. So it may be useful to read the two side by side. But in this Gita, in this edition, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is only going into explanations on special key points. And so these 4 verses, they have some wonderful commentaries attached. So we can go through those one by one. So let's see. Verse 8. I am Krishna, the sweet absolute, the origin of all. The entire universe of material and transcendental play, activity, purpose, and the Vedas and allied scriptures which give guidance, all evolve from me alone. Realizing this hidden treasure, Persons of fine theistic intelligence surpass the mundane and embrace the path of love divine, Raga Marg, and adore me forever. So, you may wonder, looking, Radhanupini is asking what page we are. It's page 168 in the edition that I have, or chapter 10, verse 8. So you may wonder, looking at the verse and hearing the translation, doesn't quite add up. This is an expanded translation. Now, this is sometimes the style of our gurus. They're not always giving literal translations, but they are giving a translation / purport, right? So the literal expression here, aham sarvasya prabhavo, right? That I am the cause of everything, right? I am the origin of everything. Everything comes from me. And then this next, mata sarvam pravartate. And everything arises from me. Everything comes from me. So I am the source of everything. Everything comes from me. And then in the purport, this is expanded, is elaborated upon. Everything mundane, everything spiritual, the scriptures, everything is coming from me. I am the source of all. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava sama. So having realized this truth, then persons come, surrender, serve me in a mood of love, with this Buddha, this intelligence. This requires some special theistic, divine intelligence to come to this. So, in other words, you don't need to go to X, Y, or Z. You don't need to go on a wild goose chase, but just go straight to the source of everything. There are so many errands that we can get lost upon. So many exciting things may attract us in this world, but ultimately Krishna is the source of everything, right? Whatever wonderful thing, interesting, curious thing that you can conceive of or experience, he is the source of it. So just go straight to the source. Don't waste your time. And another interesting point which comes up in the commentary here is that so Krishna is saying, right, everything comes from me. So a point that Srila Sridhar Maharaj makes in his commentary here is that even the attempt to approach me, that also comes from me. Even the means by which one will come to me, that also comes from me. And ultimately, this is indicating Srimati Radharani, right? She is the supreme devotee, and she is the Lord's own potency, right? And she is showing the supreme example of devotion and service to Krishna. So we can go to this commentary. A little bit long, I think. Verses 8 to 11 are the 4 principal verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The ontological substance of the book is contained within these 4 essential verses, beginning, Aham Sarvasva Prabhavo. Everything evolves from me. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3 main conceptions of the Absolute are given as Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan. Brahman is the all-comprehensive aspect of the Absolute. Paramatman is the all-permeating aspect of the Absolute, and Bhagavan is the personal conception of the Absolute. I think most of our group is familiar with these terms, but maybe just in case, maybe 1 or 2 are not so familiar. So, this is one of the points which is so wonderful about the Vedic presentation, that it's so detailed and it's so systematic. There's nothing vague there. And there's accommodation of so many different views regarding the nature of the divinity and the absolute. And so these Brahman, Paramatman, Bhagavan, there are 3 phases of the absolute that are described in the Vedas, that persons may dispute upon this point. What is the nature of God? What is the nature of the divine? Is he a person? Is he a light? Or whatever it may be. But the Vedas, they're saying yes to everything. Everything is possible within him. And so then in detail, that nature of that supreme divine entity is described in these, as appearing in these three aspects or three phases, you could say, because they're gradually more developed expressions of the divinity. So this Brahman is referring to this great, all-encompassing light consciousness aspect of the divinity within which everything is floating, right? So we often refer to this as the impersonal expression of divinity. And it's an aspect of the divine which is pervading and encompassing everything. And many persons feel that. They feel that presence, right? That divine presence. And many persons think that that's everything, that's the end, that is the ultimate expression of divinity. And they're feeling something, they're genuinely feeling something. No, but we understand, according to the teachings of our gurus, this is an undeveloped, or I like an undeveloped expression of the absolute. I like that description given in Brahma Samhita, right? Unconcentrated Sat Chit Ananda, unconcentrated truth, joy, and consciousness, right? It's all there, but it's unconcentrated. We want concentrated joy. and so rasa is missing, right? What is rasa? Rasa is divine feeling, ecstasy, emotion. That's lacking. Why? Because there's no personality there. So personality, as soon as you come to personality, that's a higher conception from our perspective. So the Brahman is an expression of the divine that is lacking personality. You can't talk to the Brahman. You can't have a relationship with the divine, with the Brahman. So then something's missing there, because our heart needs that. Our heart needs personal exchange. We can't deny that. This is the greatest truth in existence, love, right? And personal exchange, intimacy, beauty, charm. So these things are lacking within the Brahman. And so therefore we will assert that this is an undeveloped expression of divinity. And then the next phase is Paramatma, which literally means Param Atma, supreme soul. And this is described as the Brahman is this very great, huge and ever expanding expression of the divine. So Paramatma is a very tiny, very small. And as the Brahman is all encompassing, so the Paramatma is all penetrating. And this Paramatma, why is it more developed? Because there is an element of, form, personal form. The Paramatma appears as this beautiful Vishnu form, four-armed form, and is appearing in every atom in existence and sustaining the life force of every individual living entity, right? So we're told wherever there is Atma, there's Paramatma. Wherever there's the individual soul, so there is the supreme soul. And so there's, because there is an element of, form, there's not much personality. You can't exactly have a personal relationship, but there's something more developed in terms of consciousness and personality, and there's form and beauty like that. So a little more developed. And then Bhagavan is where there's full-fledged personal relationship available with the Lord, where the Lord has full personality, full beauty, full form, and one can reciprocate in a deeply involved relationship of love. So this is why we recognize Bhagavan as the highest and as the source. It is the most developed, most sophisticated, and there's the most available in terms of a loving relationship. We can continue here. The word Bhagavan is generally defined as stated in the Vishnu Purana. Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasashriyaha Yana Vaidagya Yoschaiva Shanam Bhaga Itingana. He who is full with all the 6 opulences of wealth, power, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation is known as Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord. So this is often given as a definition of Bhagavan, this personality of divinity. And we can also clarify here that Bhagavan, it's more like a category, because there are many expressions of Bhagavan, many avatars, right? That word is used, many avatars of the Lord. And so wherever you find this, sometimes you'll come across persons who have the delusion that they are God. So you can use this as a test. Well, hang on. Are you, this is legit, right? This is Vishnu Purana. No one's going to argue with Vishnu Purana. I didn't say it, but it's in the Vishnu Purana. So are you complete, in all wealth and all opulence? Are you complete? Are you full in power and strength? Are you complete in fame? This fame point's interesting because, even if persons say they don't believe in God, right? They know about him, right? So who is more famous? But nowadays, the more clever atheists, they won't even acknowledge the question. Because they say, well, that it's not even worth considering, because as soon as you say God doesn't exist, then you're already making that a thing. You're already giving some validity to the concept that there is God, right? So nowadays, I've come across that before, the more clever, arrogant atheists, they won't even, it's not even a question, like it's a non-question, right? So who is more famous, right, than God? So do you have all fame? Do you have all beauty? Do you have all knowledge, all renunciation? And I like, it's interesting how this renunciation is included, because generally, if you have, a good quantity of these other things, there's no way you're going to be renounced. Right? If you're the most beautiful person, the most powerful person, the most famous person, and you're also detached, that's going to be very difficult to find. You can find some pretty famous, beautiful, powerful people, knowledgeable, but also to be detached from that and to have no pride about that, to be totally aloof from the implications of all of that. Oh, it's not going to happen. It's practically impossible. So also full in renunciation, can walk away from it all in a second. No attachment to all these things. The characteristic of Bhagavan as Lord Narayan is that all kinds of potencies are personally controlled by him. However, Srila Jiva Goswami has given a special and particularly fine interpretation. Bhagavan means Bhajaniya Guna Vishishta. His nature is such that whoever comes into contact with him cannot resist serving him. No one can resist feeling moved to worship and adore his charming personality. As Lord Krishna, he attracts the love of everyone. So this is actually, not a point to just be, skipped over. This is quite a deep and revolutionary point here about this conception of divinity, because it's, in another way, another framework through which we can appreciate this is through this term Jnana Shunya Bhakti, which means knowledge-free devotion. And so it's the point here is that the intimate devotees of Krishna, they have no conception that he is God, right? And, in other words, their service and their worship of him is not based on any sense of obligation or duty. It's not that, oh, he's God and therefore I should worship him and love him and serve him. That's completely absent. It's just that he's so, self-evidently worshipable and lovable, adorable. And so they adore him and worship and love him. He's so attractive. And nobody needs to tell them, oh, by the way, this is God, you better, behave yourself, They don't need to hear that. They just, all they know is that he's the most beautiful person that they know and the most lovable person that they know. So this is a very revolutionary conception of God and worship of God. There's this automatic, irresistible attraction and desire to offer oneself to him. It's automatic. It's an automatic exchange and movement that's taking place. He's irresistible. So this is like, if you compare this with any other conception of God and worship of God, nothing can top this. Nothing can top this. This must be the highest. Nothing can beat this. God, this conception that God is just so inherently beautiful and charming that one cannot but irresistibly be moved to serve and worship. They don't need to be told. They don't need to be informed. They don't need to, he doesn't need to have a sign on his door saying God. But it's just so self-evident that you can't help yourself. Nothing can beat this. And this is the Krishna conception. That's why we're all here. That's why we signed up. Therefore, by the word Sarvasya, Lord Krishna indicates, I am Swayam Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord himself. I am the origin of not only Brahman and Paramatman, I am also the origin of the master of all potencies who commands the respect of everyone, Lord Narayan of Vaikuntha. So this is all being drawn out, right, from this line, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, everything emanates from me. So these different conceptions of divinity, these different aspects of the divine, God, because in a sense, like Krishna, you don't really want to put the God label on Krishna, actually. He delegates that. He delegates the job, the God job. That's Vishnu's department. Narayan deals with that. So Krishna's something more. Krishna's a playful Lord. But God, he's the source, right? So even this dignified, right, being God isn't that much fun, exactly. It's a day job. It's a 9 to 5. Krishna is God at home when he's, taking his shoes off and he's relaxing on the couch. He's having fun with his friends. So he's saying here, Krishna, I am the source of everything, even God, even that, because Narayan is such a dignified, Krishna is not such a dignified figure. Krishna is known as, being a ladies' man. Krishna is known as being very playful and so on, little tricky, right? He's not such a dignified, doesn't cut such a dignified figure by conventional measurements, right? Assessment. But Narayan is a highly dignified, persona. So he's saying, but I'm the origin of that Narayan who you have so much respect for. So then tells you something, right? Who is Krishna? That's just one part. That's a like a lower delegated part of who I am and what I'm about. So I'm also the origin of that Narayan. I'm also the origin of the master of all potencies who commands the respect of everyone, Lord Narayan of Vaikuntha. Mata sarvam pravartate. Every movement, every attempt and movement begins from me, including the methods by which everyone worships and serves me in devotion. And now this is a well-known verse in the Kathopanishad. Nayam atma pravachanena labhyo namedaya nabahuna shrutena yame vaisha rinute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma virinute tanum swam. The Lord cannot be known by logic, intelligence, or extensive study of the scriptures, but he reveals himself to one who is eager to serve him and praise to him for his grace. This is not such a literal translation. I think more literally the second half, it's saying something like, who he wants to know him, they will know him. That's more the literal idea there. But necessarily that means one who's approaching in a mood of surrender and service and prayer, as is being expressed in the translation here. In this way, mata sarvam pravartate. I am the first to reveal to the people, worship me in this way. I appear as guru, and through him, I worship myself. Because guru is actually a via media, right? You know, Krishna is appearing through guru. And so then there's supporting this is this another well-known verse from Bhagavatam. The Sacharya mam vijaniyam. Krishna is saying, you should know the Acharya to be myself. I am the Acharya, the Guru. No, I am appearing through the Guru. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Guru is described by the Lord as his own direct manifestation. Acharya mam vijaniyam navamanyeta karhichit namartya buddhya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. Okay, spot quiz here. No, you say spot quiz or pop quiz? I can't remember. But can anybody say what song is it that we sing generally every day in our temples, where this is pop quiz? Thank you, thank you. No, what song is it that we sing every day in our temples where this idea is being expressed? Where Krishna is saying, you know that I am the Acharya, know the Acharya, the Guru, to be myself. Who can say? Okay, Jayadev has the answer. Yes, the Gaurvashtakam. Yes, that's right. I know Kanapriya knows that. Yeah, so this is one of the verses in the Gaurvashtakam we generally sing in the morning by Vishwanath Chakravarti, one of our Acharyas. Shaksha Daritvena Samasta Shastra, right? Saying that all the scriptures declare that Guru, it's a glorification of Guru, right? All the scriptures declare that the Guru is non-different from Hari, from the Lord. But then it gets more interesting, right? Saksha Daritvena Samasta Shastra Uktastata Bhavyate Eva Shadbi Kintu Prabhurya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarav. And then it takes a twist. There's a twist saying, however, you are also simultaneously the most beloved to the Lord, right? And this is the interesting position of Guru. Right. And this actually, this second point is more refined, right? First look, you are non-different from the Lord. But second look, you're actually your own personality. Krishna is coming through you. You're representing Krishna, but you're also your own person, and you're most beloved. You are the supreme devotee of the Lord. You're most beloved to the Lord. That is actually more refined conception. And ultimately, that is Radharani, right? So she is in Guru Tattva, in vision of Guru, Radharani. That is the highest vision that one may have, it's being her delegation. But we are not ready for that type of vision. That is very high vision. So Acharya Mam Vijay. And then before that, Nityananda Prabhu. That is a safer way to see one's Guru. That the delegation of Nityananda is coming through Guru as topmost devotee of the Lord. Acharya mam vijaniyam navamanyeta karhi chit namarcha buddhya suyeta sarva deva mayo guru. Shri Krishna said to his devotee Uddhava, you should know the bona fide spiritual master as my very self. Gurudev is the embodiment of all the gods. Never dishonor him or find fault in him by ascribing any mundane conception of place, time, and circumstance to him. So you'll hear this expression sometimes, Martya Buddhi. And it's coming from this verse, Martya Buddhi. Martya is referring to like mortal, mundane, and Buddhi, intelligent. So to see Guru with this Martya Buddhi means like this mundane view. Now, this is very dangerous, and this warning is given to us. You may see many ordinary, common characteristics in Guru. You know, he's appearing in a human form, and he may have some human faults. You may make, ordinary mistakes sometimes, but you must be careful to appreciate the spiritual characteristic, which is transcendental to all of those things. So in this song, Shri Guru Charana Padma, another important song we sing every day for Guru, this Savadana Bando Mui, Savadana, and I'm very carefully giving my respects to Guru. And our Gurudev explains this verse, saying, why is it saying it like that? Because we may see some ordinary faults, right? But we will carefully, give our attention to the spiritual characteristic, the spiritual quality that we find in Shri Guru. Going back to the commentary, furthermore, the Lord's finest potency is Srimati Radharani. Of course, there are many other eternal associates, but the highest order of devotional service is represented in Srimati Radharani. The Lord is therefore saying, my worship is shown by me. I, as my finest potency, worship myself. Iti matva bhajante ma. Understanding this conception, the devotee will come to worship me, always under the direction of my best worshipper, my finest potency and representation, Radharani or Gurudeva. Crossing her, the highest and most desirable form of service to me, is not possible. Radhadasyam, the servitorship of Srimati Radharani, is indicated here. Only those who are blessed with divine intelligence will be able to appreciate this, and not persons with self-acquired intelligence from this Mayic quarter, the world of misconception. In this verse, the word Buddha refers to Somedasa, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, or persons of fine theistic intelligence arising from direct connection with the transcendental plane. The inner guidance and direction they receive is the outcome of Sukriti, divine merit acquired by the association of pure devotees. Bhava samanvita means raga samanvita, anurag, love and attraction, which is affinity, not by strictly following scriptural rules or drawn from any plane of loss or gain, but from bhav, inner divine inspiration. Devotion of this high type is completely non-calculative, jnana shunya bhakti, as described by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukoyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. The highest devotion is that which satisfies Lord Krishna, free from the coverings of any pursuits such as action and knowledge. The most rare and elevated stage of devotion is in the line of spontaneous devotion, known as Raga Marg. And that line, guided by the qualified guru, an elevated, pure devotee may attain service to a leader of one of the groups of Krishna's personal associates, who serve the Lord in his pastimes in a relationship of friendship, Sakya Ras, parenthood, Vatsalya Ras, or consorthood, Madhura Ras. In Vrindavan, the Lord is served in spontaneous devotion by his friends, headed by Subal Saka, and by his parental devotees, headed by Nanda Maharaj and Mother Jashoda. The gopis, headed by Lalita and Vishaka, serve him in consorthood. But amongst all his associates and amongst all the gopis, the highest order of divine loving service is rendered to the Lord by Srimati Radharani. Therefore, the acme of Raga Marg is the service of Radharani, Radhadasyam. This is the highest objective of the Rupanuga Gaudiya Sampradaya, the followers of pure devotion, as taught by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow, so there's a lot in here. There's a lot that could be unpacked in this commentary, but I'm not sure if now is the time or place for that. Does anyone have any comments or questions? And welcome also to Gangalila, who joined us. Anyone like to pick anything out from some of the points we've just heard here? Okay, well, we can go on. I think we discussed what needed to be discussed. And this, I can just mention, for those of you who are inspired to become familiar with some of the key verses, this last verse we just chanted in the commentary, this Anya Bilashi Dusunyam. This is quite an important verse. It's one of we have a few verses which are giving definitions of the nature of pure devotion, and this is one of them. They're coming from Rupa Goswami. There's like 2 or 3 which are quite essential and quoted often by our gurus, and this is one of them, describing, what is the nature of pure and the most elevated type of devotion, which is free from these external coverings. And this word is very nice and very helpful, right? This avritam, they're just coverings. The true nature of the soul is to engage in pure love for the Lord, with the Lord, right? And anything else is just a superficial covering. This needs to be removed. You remove the cover, and that bright, pure nature will come out. So what are those coverings? So 3 things are mentioned here. Anya Bilash. Anya Bilash refers to, literally it means other desires. And it refers to, it's generally used to indicate whimsical, any type of whimsical desire, impulse that we have. It's sometimes I think of Anya Bilash as a Western issue, and then karma as an Indian issue. Because in this context, the word karma, it's used in many different ways, has different connotations. In this context, karma means, is referring to like a calculated type of devotion, which has some worldly objective behind it. In this context, that's what karma is referring to. So pursuits of devotion that are motivated by mundane desires, right? And so, you know, this is often found in the case of, general Hindu practices, right? Where there are so many rituals and, types of worship which are offered, but there's some, ends, karma kanda, right? This is one section of the Vedas where it's a hook. It's one of the hooks, right? To get people on the ladder of spiritual life, that, oh, this will be good for your life in this world, then it's a way of attracting people, right? So this is more of a challenge for the Vedic mind, whereas Anya Bilash is random, whimsical, meaningless enjoyment. This is more of a Western problem. For persons raised in the Vedic culture, it's all based on duty, right? And this type of freedom to just do whatever, whenever, wherever, with whoever, it doesn't really exist. But on the upside, that failing that we have with the Western samskar, with that Western nature, it can make it easier for us to transition to Krishna consciousness, which is based on the idea of free love, right? Free natural love from the heart, out of natural desire, not out of a sense of, duty or ritual or whatever, right? So it's what can we say? It's an interesting point. And then, so Anya Bilash, random, whimsical enjoyment, karma, calculated. One way Srila Sridhar Maharaj has expressed it is like keeping your, like depositing in the bank, right? Practices of karma are like that. Like you're depositing something in the bank for your future lives. You're saving, you're building up your savings so that you're going to have something good set up in your next life. This is also behind some of the general Hindu conceptions of religious practices, storing something for the future, right? And then the third covering mentioned here is gyan, right? Which literally is translated as knowledge, and is referring to, here in this context, I would say pursuits for liberation, right? Anya Bilash and karma, they're on the worldly side. They have as their objective attainments of this worldly plane, right? Enjoyment of this worldly plane now and in the afterlife. But then those in practices of gyan, of knowledge, they recognize the uselessness of mundane enjoyment, mundane attainments, because it has nothing to do with the soul. And so those in following practices of gyan, generally meditation, yoga, austerities, and so on, their objective is moksha, mukti, liberation. They just want to get free of the whole thing. But that's also disconnected from the natural, movement of the soul to love the Lord. Exploitation, renunciation, they're both abnormal. They're both coverings. They're both artificial. So dedication, right? To love the Lord, to serve the Lord, to love and to enjoy, but in the proper place, in connection with the proper recipient of those things. Only that is healthy, wholesome, and in connection with the natural, organic flow, universal flow of love towards the Lord, love and service towards the Lord. It's all just so perfect. It all just adds up so well. Hallelujah. Let's see. Well, we still have 10 minutes or 8 minutes. Let's just go on to the second of these 4 verses. So this is verse 9 of chapter 10. Always thinking of me, those surrendered souls converse about me. enlightening one another with the nectar of their devotional realizations, ever content and ecstatic in their divine natures. And it's just a beautiful verse, and there are some interesting layers to this verse. You know, one is that one point which I always like to remember in connection with this verse is that one thing which is implied here is that you can taste sweetness as an outcome of surrender, right? This Makchit, Krishna is speaking, Makchitta Madgata Prana, those persons who have fully given themselves to me, you know, Tushyanti Cha, Ramanti Cha, they're always tasting this sweetness, this joy, this ecstasy and everything. And that is one point, that we can taste sweetness as a result of surrender will yield sweetness and beauty in our lives. And another point, which is very nice here, is this, you know, this description of how these surrendered souls, right? They have these friendly relationships, right? And they're inspiring one another. You know, Bodha Yanta Parasparam. They're causing one another to have enlightenment, inspiration, and you know, they're supporting one another in this very beautiful way, you know, and sharing their realization. So it's kind of giving us a glimpse, right, of this, you know, the interpersonal relationships of amongst the surrendered souls. We can just read this commentary. The Supreme Lord Krishna is speaking about his pure devotees. I am in the heart of their hearts and their every thought. Their entire energy, their whole life is dedicated to my satisfaction. They converse with one another about me and experience mutual enlightenment. They always love to talk about me with whoever they meet and nothing else. For every time, place, and circumstance, I am the only subject of their discussion. They find very much satisfaction in this, Tushyanti Cha. Up to the divine relationship of parenthood, there is the feeling of satisfaction. Furthermore, Ramanti Cha, just as a wife enjoys a conjugal relationship with her husband, the devotee similarly feels such ecstasy in my intimate company when speaking about me. This has also been mentioned by the previous acharyas. So this is a fine point that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is drawing out here, and that you may not find in other explanation. This Ramanti, Rama, right? It's referring to pleasure, which can indicate a conjugal pleasure and consorthood. And so it's indicating these different relationships of divine love that the Lord's intimate servitors, you know, have with him. Very high topics. And I think I'm going to stop there for today. So we've been through the first two of these four principal verses, and then we can go through. There's a lot in these next two verses we can go through next week. Particularly this next verse, the third of the Chatur Shloki. It's there's this phrase here, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, that it's so, like, every time I read this verse, it's like, oh yeah, thank God. Because Krishna is saying that, you know, persons who are always trying to serve me, I will give them the intelligence by which they can come to me, right? Because so often we feel bewildered, right? We don't know which way to go forward. We feel a little lost. Are we on the right track, right? This will come to us. But this reassurance, this promise is given by Krishna. Don't worry, I'm there for you. I will show you. If you are sincere in your desire to try to serve me and connect with me and surrender to me, I will show you the way forward. So it's such a wonderful, loving reassurance that's given by Krishna. It just like kind of ends all the problems. Like, oh yeah, every time, honestly, every time we say, oh yeah, thank God, I forgot about that. I'll sleep well tonight. Dadami Buddhi Yoga. I will give them the intelligence by which they can approach me. They can connect with me. I will personally reveal that. So don't worry. The only thing you have to do is make sure your intentions are pure, your intentions are clean, you are sincere. And if so, then you don't have to worry. It's going to be automatic. It's already a given, right? That the Lord will be there. He will show the way for you. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I think we'll stop there for today. Anyone like to mention anything before we close for today? Bring up any point or question or anything at all? Well, so happy to have all of your good association, keeping me alive. Roger, were you raising your hand there?
Yeah, I guess I hesitate to ask sort of, but would you be able to give like an example maybe of what like an impure intention would be if someone's like coming to Krishna with an impure intention, like maybe an example of that?
Well, I was referring more to when we're already kind of established in the practice. And then the danger, right? We're to Kanak, Kamini, and Pratishta, right? These are the three main dangers. Oh, thank you, Anna Krishna. These are the three main dangers that the practitioner will face. Kanak is wealth, right? The temptation of wealth. Kamini is referring to sense pleasure, particularly between men and women. And then Pratishta is the most dangerous, the most subtle, most difficult to overcome. That is the temptation of name and fame, position, power, influence, right? And so this is the danger, that we may come in the beginning with pure intentions, but then somewhere along the line, you go a little off track or a lot off track, whatever the case may be, So there's that need to constantly, reassess ourselves and review ourselves and pull out the weeds that are starting to
Great.
sprout.
Thanks a lot. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the reason I said like already established on the path is that, anyone who's come, because Krishna, like the very conception of Krishna consciousness, it's all based upon the concept of full surrender. There's nothing in it for you, right? So, more or less, we would think that anyone who's coming in the beginning, they have pure intentions, right? But it's different in other practices because in other conceptions, there may be more of a mixture, right? That you are coming to this for some gain of some type. But the very foundational concept of Krishna consciousness is that there's nothing in it for you, right? So for the most part, I would think everyone comes with pure intentions. But then as we go along the path, those we get temptations come up, and also our own anartas, right? Our own weaknesses, they may come more to the surface, and that may be part of a purging that's going on. There's so many different things that are coming from different directions, right? So our need is to daily bathe in Harikatha and pure Harikatha and hear the talks of the Lord and remind ourselves constantly, you know, why we came, what we're here for, and is that why we're still here? And if not, you know, I need to take a shower. You know? There's that constant need. And, you know, another thing, I mean, this is a whole discussion in itself, you know, because another thing is that it's the nature of bhukti and mukti, right? The objects of enjoyment of this world, you know, liberation. They also have a personified existence, and they like to serve the devotees, right? So these things, like when someone is increasing in their mood of devotion, you're naturally attracting these things, right? You're attracting wealth. And it's being attracted to the devotion that you have. You're attracting wealth, you're attracting followers, you're attracting fame, and so on. And they're coming to serve you, but then the danger is that you become corrupted by those things, and you want to exploit those things rather than utilize them and service and reinvest them, right? It's like one explanation Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives, it's like compound interest, right? That there's some interest that's building up as a result of your initial investment. So are you going to spend that interest, or are you going to reinvest it? Like whatever is coming as a result of your devotion, it has to be used only for devotion. You're not going to go and spend that on something else, right? And it can get very dangerous, you know, especially when it gets to a point where other person's spiritual lives are depending on you, you know, and they're giving their energy to you, and then you start to misuse it. It starts to all get really, really messy and really complicated, and, you know, pretty scary. So it's a huge responsibility. Like as one's mood of devotion is increasing, there's an element of responsibility that's also there, especially if they're in a position of giving shelter to others. And there has to be that extreme care that whatever is coming to me, I'm going to 100% use that for the higher cause. Otherwise, I can't bear that weight, actually. I can't bear that weight. Madhusudana Maharshi, I'll just share this one story and then I'll close because I don't want to go too late over time. Madhusudana Maharshi shared this one amazing story. He was here in January, and he shared this amazing story I hadn't heard before. There was some like semi-corrupt government official who used to come around our temple, and they're even today, the local government, they're quite strict about like registering foreigners. Like if you go to a hotel, at least in Bengal, it's like, no, I think all over India it's like that. You know, they take your passport details, they register you. So also at our temples, we have to do that. And the local authorities will check from time to time. And so this one government official, he'd come around to check, but he was always looking for some excuse to like you know, point out some wrong, or like some information was missing, and he would take money from the devotees. So for example, there was one devotee, they didn't have their passport with them, and so they couldn't register properly, and so the official took some money from him. And it wasn't that much. It was like 700 rupees or something, right? It wasn't that much, which is, you know, like a few dollars. And maybe it was more. Maybe it was 7,000 rupees. I don't remember, but at most it was like $50 to $100. It wasn't a huge amount. But he took this money from this one devotee, and then our Gurudev, he heard about it, and he called that official, and he told him, I think it was like 700. Do you remember that story? It was very little. I think it was just 700 rupees. It wasn't very much. And our Gurudev he called that official to him, and he told him, you know, you cannot digest this money. And but this was part of the point. That money that devotee had collected, I think it was a DT Nandam, Saraswati's husband in London. He'd collected that money specifically. He'd been in Calcutta. He used to go on collection to like offices, and he would collect money for the temple. So that money he had, this was the main point. He had specifically collected that money for the service of Krishna. So it was like precious money, and the energy had been taken from different places for that purpose. And it was that money that this official had taken. Our Gurudev warned him. He said, you cannot digest that money. This is heavy money. No, this is dangerous for you. If you will take that money, you will keep it. So it's like that, there. I won't tell the end of the story because it's a little sad. He died. But that wasn't the point. But he literally did, he got very sick shortly afterwards and he died. But that wasn't, what I was trying to say, The point is, that there's, we have to be so careful with this energy. You're in a position of responsibility. So, yes, we have to be careful to always look within our hearts and assess the sincerity of our intention, the purity of our intention in all of this, especially if we're in that position of, responsibility for others and their energy too. So, okay, well, I'll stop there before I get myself into trouble. But thank you all so much for your wonderful association. Gangalila, do you want to pray us out for today? Any final words, reflections?
Thank you so much, Vishaka Devi, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to have Sadhu Sangha, because that's the most important thing. So may we be carried with our good association here. Thank you so much. And if you want to unmute, we can all chant 3 Mahamantras together. Hare Krishna.